Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, Shaykh Arif.
Alaikum assalam wa
Thank you for
rahmatullah.
being here with us today.
It's an honor.
Right, so many questions have arisen recently from the presentation given by Sheikh Alidina at the World Federation 2018 EXCO in Karachi in relation to your scholarship and your ideas. So we are conducting this interview today as many people have demanded some clarifications from you. So hopefully in this regard, I've reviewed Shaykh Alidina's presentation and I'll ask you some questions in regards to the points he's raised, which I believe are firstly, your scholarship and qualifications. Secondly, your ideas and the novelty of those ideas. Thirdly, your communication with the World Federation and the sequence of events, which I think will help. And finally, the best way to move forward for everyone. So if we can begin with some of the things that Shaykh Alidina mentioned. So he mentions that you claim to have an ijazah, firstly, to practice ijtihad from Sayyid Muhaqqiq Damad. And therefore you are able to derive Islamic laws, as other mujtahids do. Could you please clarify these qualifications for us, please?
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. I need to point out that after studying in Madrasa Sayyid al-Khuy, going to Iran, finishing off my preliminary education, I came back to Birmingham, established Al-Mahdi Institute and studied under Ayatollah Hussein Amini. And during those years, I wrote down his Dars Kharij in Usul and Fiqh and then graduated under Ayatollah Amini. And Amini was Ayatollah Amini, Marhum Ayatollah Amini was my teacher. Later on, I wrote a dissertation and Ayatollah Muhaqqiq Damad, who is the grandson of Sheikh Abdul Karim Hayri, an illustrious personality who founded the seminary of Qom. And Muhaqqiq Damad is a celebrated scholar both within the East and the West and has numerous works. He was the examiner of my dissertation and he gave me the ijazah of ijtihad.
Shaykh Alidina does point out that you weren't aware of Sayyid Muhaqqiq Damad's works in their entirety. So in particular his works on interest he mentions that you weren't actually aware of. Would you like to shed some light?
I would like to add to the comment that Shaykh Alidina has made that I am unaware of many of Ayatollah Muhaqqiq Damad's works. He is an illustrious personality and he writes exceedingly. So I'm not aware of all of his works and there is no need for me to be aware of my examiner's work as such, and that is not something that undermines my own ijtihad. The fact that I am co-authoring several articles with Muhaqqiq Damad and they will be published under both of our names says something in itself about my own qualifications. And two, if anybody wishes to know, then they can see what Muhaqqiq Damad says about me and what he writes about me. And if Shaykh Alidina wishes, he can personally go and ask, or the WF can go and ask Muhaqqiq Damad as to what he thinks about my scholarship. But the point that I would like to make is that it is not necessary to know all the works of your examiner or of your teacher. We come across whatever we come across. Now if Muhaqqiq Damad has a work in which he does not agree with interests being permissible, then obviously I disagree with that view of his, because my own view and interest is that that interest which is socially productive is fine, and that interest which is socially unfriendly is not right according to the Quran. And therefore I would differ with him on that opinion, if that indeed is his opinion. And inshallah next time when he is here or when we communicate, I will ask him about his opinion and about the book that Alidina mentions.
Okay. So moving forward, another point that was raised by Shaykh Alidina is that your views and opinions are against the mainstream view. Do you think that you differ from the mainstream? And if so, how do you?
In many cases, I differ from the mainstream. And differing from the mainstream is not something that undermines a person's scholarship. If anything, it should convey the confidence of the scholarship of a person who is against the mainstream. I do not agree with beating up women as the mainstream. Allow it according to the verse of the Quran. I do not allow unrestricted right to one's spouse, which constitutes marital rape. I do not agree with non-egalitarian rights between men and women. I do not agree that we can take organs from the non-Muslims and we cannot give them organs. I do not agree with the division of khums, its distribution, and the non-accountability of it. And in that way, a lot of the views of the mainstream are something that I will not agree with, or the damnation of the non-Muslims, even though they are sincerely trying to seek the good pleasure of God and not knowing any better. So yes, I am in that way other than the mainstream in many ways. But that should not be a problem. Imam Khomeini himself was seen as against the mainstream in his own time and condemned for it by many. The Shias are against the mainstream because the Sunnis are the mainstream.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Shaykh Alidina points out that to be a mujtahid, however, you need to be aware of the current opinions of other mujtahids, really, and be able to respond to those arguments to produce, that they produce. So in your works, do you take into consideration the works of other mujtahideen?
Shaykh Alidina is absolutely accurate in making this assertion. And yes, if you look at my articles on Bulugh, the paper of hijab in which I've quoted Khui, or extensively displayed and demonstrated the fiqh method of bringing in the views of the past masters and then critically evaluating them and then giving an alternate position, is when I talk about the issue of ghina, from Khui's treatment of Sheikh Ansari, and then I critique Sayyid al-Khui, evaluate him, and then give my own novel position. So as Shaykh Alidina is absolutely right, we need to do that, and I display that in all my papers.
But Shaykh Alidina is not convinced by a particular paper.
So in Hilal paper, I've taken on board the views of Sayyid al-Khui and discussed it within the framework of the intercalations that the Meccans used to do. So now what I want to understand here is that with all humility and in all humbleness, is Shaykh Alidina claiming that he is of that aptitude that he can actually verify my ijtihad? If he is not, then obviously this particular comment of his is out of place. On the other hand, Shaykh Alidina could be very educated, very learned, and he's being very humble. In which case, I genuinely would ask him to share his critique on my views and on my thoughts with all my other papers that are there, and then share them with me, or even come to Al-Mahdi Institute in one of our forums, the Fiqh workshop, and present his views. We will welcome, and of course, we should be learning from each other.
Thank you. According to Shaykh Alidina, the issues you raise, such as pluralism, form and essence, contextualization of the Quran, they're not novel really. They've already been sufficiently responded and critiqued to by scholars from Hawzas in the East. So do you have any response to this?
So then if they have already been responded to, then why are they so perturbed and rattled by what I say? Surely they should just bring somebody and say, look, this has been responded to, this is the book, here it is. No. To the best of my knowledge, my ideas on form and essence and contextualization is on the backbone of the property of existence, which is the absolute property that Sadra talks about, substantial motion. So my notion of form and essence is quite novel, since it takes birth from an existential framework. I talk of a host of things: no finality, evolutionary flux, horizontal and vertical axis, existential axis, and I talk about contextualization in that framework. To the best of my knowledge, nobody in the West has done any work on form and essence of this caliber, and to the best of my knowledge, nobody in the East has rebutted these ideas. Now, if Shaykh Alidina believes that they've already been responded to and Western scholars have written on it the way I have written on it, then please write it for me, produce evidence, tell me who has written it in the same fashion, and tell me who has rebutted it in the East. Because if it's already been done, then next time round I will not take the trouble of getting into trouble for giving these ideas. I will just say, oh, they've already been discussed in any case, and I can give references of others.
it has been reported that Ayatollah Milani from Qom had reportedly been willing to meet you at Hajj to have further discussions in this regard.
So I was in Arafah and somebody said he came from the Ba'atha of Ayatollah Sistani, and he said there's an Ayatollah Milani from Qom who wishes to sit with you. So I was chuffed. And I said, I'll be extremely honored. Yes, please. Tell him I would be more than happy to meet with him, but nothing transpired, nothing came of it.
Shaykh Alidina spends around half of his presentation referring to your original meeting, in which he says he challenged you on several issues, including the practice of Arba'in, authenticity of Mafati, najasa of alcohol, in accordance with the view of Shaykh Hui, that is, and other matters. Would you like to shed some light on this?
The first meeting, when it was arranged, we insisted that it be recorded. The World Federation were on edge, but we insisted that it be recorded. So the first thing is that that meeting that Alidina, Shaykh Alidina is referring to has been recorded. Now, when I heard the sort of things that he's saying, I would say that I wish he had referred to the recording so that he would have remembered what transpired in that meeting. When he says that he gave me a verse and I said, oh, I didn't know, I actually replied to him that, but Shaykh, you are taking the verse out of its context. And he said, oh yeah. Then on the issue of Arba'in, I'm going to explain to you in a little while. Issue of Arba'in, when he said that there is a principle of at-tasamuh fi adilati sunan, based on the hadith man balagh, that even if a hadith is not sound, anybody hears it and they act in accordance with it, they have thawab. I said, Shaykh, that hadith only allows an individual to commit that act seeking the pleasure of God, but it does not give that act a status within Sharia. And when he quoted the counter-argument of Al-Khui, he said, Al-Khui says that on the basis of this Qaida Tasamuh, Khui says if anybody wishes to do this ghusl as mustab, even though we don't have solid evidence for it, they can do so. So I asked him, I said, but Khui believes that a mustahab ghusl suffices in place of wudu. Does Al-Khui say that such a ghusl that is based on adilatu tasamuh, yes, suffices from wudu? He said no. So I said, there you go, I rest my point. So Shaykh Alidina then understood that the true implication of this particular principle that he had brought. So I just wish he had referred to that recording and then made those comments. In any case, several people were present in that meeting and Sheikh Zafar Abbas was also present. So I'm sure Sheikh Zafar Abbas also recalls what happened there. Now Shaykh Alidina said they wanted to start off the whole discussion on the 80% of Shia Islam being inaccurate. And I said, well, I also the Sunni Islam is inaccurate. So we discussed at length that, but then he saw that no, we're not getting anywhere with this one. And Sheikh Zafar Abbas also interjected and he said, look, you're not getting anywhere. Just carry on with other things. So then he said about the Arba'in, he said, you're saying Arba'in is not authentic. I said, look, read what I have said or listen to what I have said. I said, we cannot verify the occurrence of Arba'in historically. That's what I have said. He said, but have you read this and this book? And I believe the name of that book was by Fate Mohammed Ali Qadi Tabatabai, At-Tahqiq Hawl Awal Al-Arba'in, Sayyid Shuhada. So I said, no, I haven't. He said, well, you should have. I said, well, maybe if you send it to me, or I'll get it and I'll read it. And I discussed this in the interview last year, that the time that it takes for Bibi Zainab to go to Sham with the weight in Kufa and coming back and staying in Sham for 1 month far exceeds 40 days from the Shahada of Hussein ibn Ali Islamullah alayh and Arba'in. And the riwayah, if it's saying that Bibi Zainab and Jabir ibn Abdullah met in Karbala, and on the other hand we know that Jabir Ridwanullah alayh heard of the Shahada of Hussein and he came straight to Karbala. So if Jabir came in the first year and Bibi Zainab met him on her return from Sham, then it could not have been on the day of the 20th of Safar. It was some other time that they met, and I made that very, very clear to Shaykh Alidina that all I'm saying is, in my interview I made that very clear, and I said to Shaykh Alidina that I'm saying that we can't substantiate. If you can substantiate it for me, I'm more than happy to believe it. I have nothing against it. I go and do Arba'in Ziyarah myself. In the on the issue of the Mafatihul Jinan. So I told Sheikh Alidina that Sheikh Makarim has also commissioned a research, and he said, but you know what, I actually did that and he hasn't taken out many du'as. So I said, well, that's fine. I believe that majority of the dua in Mafatihul Jinan and Ziyarat and whatever are suspicious. So he said, but Sheikh Makarim has only taken out about 20%. So I said, at least the point that I'm trying to make is that not everything in Mafati is authentic. Now, maybe he has taken out 20% and we can do further research. But incidentally, if Sheikh Alidina were to actually look at this book, Ta'arud Mafatih al-Jinan ma'al Quran, the conflict of Mafatih al-Jinan with Quran, is written by an illustrious mujtahid, Ayatullah al-Uzma al-Allama Sayyid Abu al-Fadl bin Rida al-Burqay'i al-Qummi. And it was written in Persian and translated into Arabic. Now this man, this Ayatullah, died in the 90s. He was a student of the Grand Abdul Karim Hayri, the student of Abul Hasan Isfahani, the Grand Abul Hasan Isfahani. Ayatullah Khuy, according to his autobiography, was very, very fond of him. Sayyid Shahrudi was very fond of him. Obviously, they were his contemporaries, and he was their contemporary. And he has ijaz of ijtihad from several renowned personalities of his time. And I would ask Shaykh Alidina to conduct some research on this great man. Go onto his website, and if he finds that this man is credible, his ijazas are credible, that he is an ayatullah indeed, then to read this book. And he said what is needed is, beyond establishing that the sanad or the chain of narrators being present, to establish whether it's consistent or inconsistent with the Quran, whether it makes rational sense. He said in the 2nd and the 3rd century Hijri, he said there were many simple-minded people who are pious, who are reporting, and many fabricators have fabricated things and introduced them in the name of Islam, and those simple-minded, genuine people just introduced them within the faith because they just said, well, the chain is strong enough, and if the chain is strong enough, who are we to ask about its content? So then he conducts a research into Mafatihul Jinan, and there, please Shaykh Alidina, please check it. How much of Mafatih is left? He talks about Shaykh Abbas's chains not being very sound. He talks about the content not being sound. I've had a cursory look at it, and it does seem a lot of it is suspicious. Obviously, my own concerns with Shaykh Alidina was that we need to conduct this research on several fronts. Are the chains sound? Is it consistent with the Quran? Is the style of the Imams? Because some of the styles in these du'as are not the style of the Imam, like Al-Qama. That is not the style in which the Imams are masters of eloquency. They don't talk such loose talk in the du'as. In any case, that is what I said to Alidina. And then, of course, Shaykh Alidina made a point. He said, well, you're saying that some of these du'as are inconsistent with the Quran because in Ziyaratul Jamia it says, I bear witness that the creation will return to you and their accountability will be to you. And I said, well, the Quran says, indeed, to us is their return and to us is their accountability. So Alidina points out in this EXCO meeting, from what I heard, that this na, the plural, means the Imams on the day of Qiyamah. So I'll say, okay, if this na means the Imams in the Quran, then what about the Surah Yusuf? نحن نقص عليك أحسن القصص بما وحينا إليك هذا القرآن وإن كنت من قبله لمن الغافلين. We narrate upon you the best of stories by revealing this Quran upon you, even though you, O Muhammad, were unaware of it before we revealed it. So is this now Muhammad Rasulullah saying to his own self that you were unaware of the Quran before we revealed it to you? That will become inconsistent. Or is this Imam saying it to the Prophet, in which case the Imams are above the Prophet? I don't know what it means. I don't know what they are trying to say. Look at the statement of the Prophet. لا أدري ما يفعل بي ولا بكم. I don't know what will be done to me or to you. إن أتبع إلا ما يوحى إلي. I just follow what has been revealed to me. So on the one hand, Muhammad Rasulullah is saying, I don't know what will be done to me. And on the other hand, Muhammad Rasulullah himself is revealing it to himself. Yes? In kuntum fi raybin mimma nazzalna ala abdina, if you are in any doubt as to what we have revealed to our slave is Muhammad. So who are we? It can't be Prophet Muhammad, and it can't be the Imams because they are lesser than Prophet Muhammad. Now if you look at Nabi Isa says to Allah on the day of conversation, on the day of Qiyamah, that, oh Allah, if you decide to forgive them, you are most forgiving. If you decide to punish them, then they are your slaves. Isa is saying to Allah, you will decide. Nothing to do with me or with anybody else. As far as the alcohol issue is concerned, so I had taught the issue of alcohol to my class. And I said there are 15 ahadith. So Shaykh Alidina said there aren't 15 hadiths and nobody has given the fatwa that alcohol is tahir. So I was taken aback. And in reverence of my brother Shaykh Alidina, so I said, I took it back. I said, okay, then let me go back and check. Sure enough, when I checked, there were ample ahadith, of which we sent Shaykh Alidina 8 ahadith. And after the 8 ahadith, we also sent the quote of Ayatollah Khui, in which he's saying that the ahadith of najasa are less than the ahadith of tahara, and the ahadith of tahara are more than 20 ahadith. But I thought for the benefit of the viewers, I will actually, this is book known as At-Tanqih fi Sharh Al-Urwat Al-Wuthqa. This is the commentary on Urwat Al-Wuthqa, and these are the dars of Kharij of Ayatollah Khui, written by one of his illustrious student, Mirza Ali Tabrizi Gharawi. On page 89, it says, At-Tasi' 9 Al-Khamar, wine. Now in these discussions, Ayatollah Khui says that it is an issue of conflict. Many have said it is najis due to these ahadith. But the ahadith on the other side that say it is tahir, that the Imam said it is haram to drink, but you can go and pray in alcohol, clothes with alcohol. He said they are more ahadith than those of najasa. This is Khui saying it. The other thing he said is that the ahadith that say that it is najis are in usul, technically they are zahir, they are apparent text. But the hadith that say that it is tahir are nas, explicit text. Now in the art of reconciliation of hadith, when you have conflict between two types of ahadith, if one is explicit and the other one is apparent, you always give preference to the explicit over the apparent. So Sayyid al-Khui says we will have to give preference of the hadith of tahara or najasa. So alcohol is pure. He said on the other hand, if you look at what is in conflict with the Quran, none of them are in conflict with the Quran. That's Khui's view. Yes, my views are a bit different. Then he says, if you look at other preference-giving factors, that what is inconsistent with the Amma, the Ahlus Sunnah, he said both of them in places are inconsistent. So he said all things being equal, we have to conclude that the ahadith of tahara prevail over the ahadith of najasa, and therefore alcohol will have to be deemed as tahir. He said, but there is one hadith from the 7th Imam, in which the questioner asks that, look, we have a hadith from the 5th and the 6th Imam that say alcohol is tahir. Then we have this hadith from the 6th Imam that says alcohol is najis. So what should we do? So the 7th Imam said, act in accordance with the 6th Imam's hadith. And this is what Khui concludes, that it is najis. Now why do I conclude that it is tahir? In accordance with my theory of form and essence. What I say here is that all those people to whom the 5th Imam was saying, and 6th Imam, that it is tahir, have the 5th and the 6th Imam misguided them? They didn't have to do taqiyya because there's nothing to do with the Sunni being inconsistent with Sunni or compliant with the Sunni. So there was no notion of taqiyya. So to some they are saying it's tahir, to some they are saying it's najis. To the people who are saying it is tahir, they are far more explicit. To the people they are saying it's najis, it's not explicit. So according to form and essence, what we understand is, from my theory, the book of Allah is the heavier weight according to the hadith of the Prophet. The Ahlul Bayt are the lesser weight in accordance in their jurisprudential capacity. So when you reconcile, you will say, actually the Quran is not, as Khui says, the Quran is not talking about the najasa of alcohol. So if you want to prove that this Quran, that the alcohol is najis, then you have to substantiate that it is najis. Without evidence you can't. So the Quran does not call it najis. So the original position of alcohol is non-najasa. And therefore the najasa part would be contextual. in different contexts. So that's a different form that the law is taking. So why would the Imam say it's najis? Obviously, Imam realized that by saying to them it's tahir, go and pray your namaz, these people are getting more inclined towards alcohol. So now, give them a strict rule. Go and wash it. Don't go near it. And I would ask my dear brother Shaykh Alidina to refer to the students of Ayatollah Khoi. Ayatollah Amini, who was my teacher, was a student of Ayatollah Khoi. To refer to the students of Ayatollah Khoi and to seek clarity from them. And by the way, Ayatollah Amini went to Najaf with Ayatollah Sistani and very well known to Ayatollah Sistani.
We sort of mentioned this at the beginning. It is in regard to your interaction with the World Federation and the sequence of events and essentially how it all played out. So, according to Shaykh Alidina, you extensively delayed your response to several emails, and you that were sent to you by the IEB, and you did not provide them with any papers that you had promised. Would you like to respond to this?
I can only say that there's been an oversight or something is lost in communication. Now, before I go into the timelines, I will just say this much, that in the first meeting, they decided that they will only take brief answers from me and detailed discussions will follow. And I will tell you in a little while that we initiated this detailed discussion straight after the first meeting and they didn't follow it through. The Skype conversation that is within the public domain now, in that Skype conversation, they again say that they've come to do tabayyun and they just want brief answers. And I make it clear that we need to follow with detailed answers, and they say yes. But they never engage with us for detailed answers again. So when Shaykh Alidina says that initially you said that he did not find my evidence convincing, I'm asking which evidence? It never got to a stage of them seeking evidence from me anyway. So now, we had the first meeting in the presence of Sheikh Zafar Abbas, and that was recorded, but the recording wasn't released. We had that meeting in December of 17th. Then 18th of December, Sheikh Ismail sends me the transcripts of the questions for the first time. And these were the questions that they were asking me in that meeting without even showing me in the first meeting. So after the first meeting finished, I said, well, can I have the transcription? At least if you want me to reply to them, I need to know what I'm replying to. So that's when he sent it. That's on the 18th of December 17. 6th of January 18, Sheikh Ismail asks to start discussing the two questions that we had decided to discuss. That 80% of Shia Islam is inaccurate and Mafati, 70% of it is inaccurate. On the 11th of January, 5 days after, my assistant replied that we will take time out and mention summary replies. Then on the 22nd, my assistant again sends a reminder that we have now decided on the format. The first email, my assistant replies to them that this is the format in which we will reply. And there was no reply from Shaykh Alidina or his office. Then again, on the 22nd, my assistant again reminds them that we have already stated that this is the format in which we will discuss. On the 25th, Shaykh Ismail acknowledges that he received that email. On the 2nd of February, my assistant sends them email with evidences on alcohol. And we said, let us start off now the whole of this process of Shia Islam being false by asking the question, well, what is Shia identity? So we can start knocking it off bit by bit. So we initiated the whole of that process. So this was on the 2nd of February 2018. Now the World Federation doesn't reply. But on the 19th of February, the World Federation requests to discuss the issues discussed already at greater depth. And after a few email exchanges, the time and date were set. So that thing got lost, that detailed discussion. It got lost even though we initiated it and they agreed upon it, but it never took place. So on the 6th of the March, by that time, the Skype conversation, because Sheikh Ismail and Sheikh Alidina could not come here because of the beast from the east, that snowstorm that had come, and they got obviously stuck in London. So we had that Skype conversation. And now in that Skype conversation, what they said was that they just want brief answers, and I said we will follow it up with detailed discussions, and they agreed. Now it's there if you want to see it. So then The email came from Shan, and he said that the video had been leaked. So obviously, I responded through my assistant that look, we had given you our word that we will not make public the first recording which we didn't. As far as these were concerned, these are only asking for clarifications, and I'm obliged to give this clarification to whoever asks me.
Sorry, if I could interject at this point, it was alleged that the Al Mahdi Institute uploaded the second meeting with Shaykh Alidina.
Yeah, so let me just take you through the timeline, and then I can come back to it, right?
Yeah, sure.
Actually, that's a better way. When they emailed us on the 6th of the March, obviously, then we took it off the YouTube channel. And
Right.
I'll explain that in a little while more thoroughly.
Yes.
Now, on the 13th of March, after our Skype conversation, World Federation asks for articles. And my assistant gives them the links to the article on Bulugh, Hijab, and my LA talks. Now, the way he has set up the system is that when they get the links, if they press it and download it, we get the notification that they have downloaded it. Now, this is on the 13th of March. From 13th of March, they did not download anything. But we heard rumors that they are saying that we haven't sent any articles. So my assistant, again, on the 17th of September, after 6 months, sends an email to them, says to them that we are hearing rumors that we haven't sent you the articles, whereas we have sent you the articles. On the 18th, the day after he sends this email, they download those articles that we have sent to them.
Okay.
On the 19th, WF says that the rumors are misunderstandings and they had acquired the paper. But what they didn't know is that we know when they downloaded them. Can you see that?
Yes.
So they only downloaded it a day after we sent them, after 6 months. Now this is on the 19th of September. On the 27th of September, World Federation asked for more papers. On the 9th of December, because by this time I said to my assistant that these guys are not serious.
Yeah.
Take your time over it. So in any case, on the 9th of the 10th October, he sends links to the paper of the conflict resolution of reconciliation between the principle of autonomy and the principle of lack of harm that was marked by Fate Mohammed, the paper on Hilal. It was sent to them on the 9th of October. On the 23rd of October, the World Federation asked for the remaining paper. Now that's on the 23rd of October. And we were still thinking, okay, they want to look at the papers and they want to try and understand my methods and then come back and write to me.
Yeah.
This was on the 23rd of October. On the 26th of October, the World Federation sends a dossier of 70 pages to me.
Yes.
And gives me a timeline of 2 to 3 weeks and I told my assistant, respond to them that, look, I will take my time over it. I mean, I do this from the goodness of my heart. They don't really, have a right to expect things of me, and even less so to demand of me within a particular timeline. So
Sure.
by this time I was just wondering that they are not true to what they said, that they will engage with me thoroughly on the back of the Skype conversation, on the back of the transcription. They've asked for papers. They have not written anything on the papers, but instead they've created a dossier. In any case, I look at the dossier, have a cursory glance, and I write back to them that, look, these are 9 or 10 points that I've picked up by just having a cursory glance in which you have misrepresented my views. So then on the 12th of 11, Shan then replies to my email that I've emailed to him.
That point of the Al Mahdi being allegedly having posted your second meeting with Shaykh Alidina, could you clarify this for us, please?
So what happened was that the meeting was posted on my personal YouTube channel, not on Al Mahdi. And it was for the viewing of the people of the board. Now Shan emails and he says that I have agreed with him that we will not post. So I replied to Shan, I said, no, we agreed on the first meeting that we will not give it to the public. But these ones are very ordinary. The sheikhs are asking me my justification. I'm giving to them, and I'm obliged to give anybody this justification. Shan said, so Shan came a different way, and he said, but somebody's house is being shown in that recording without their permission. So I said, yes, this is a valid point. So then I said to my assistant, yes, apologize and take it off. And my assistant apologized and took it off. Now, a day after the co-ed elections, Arif Bata exposed, leaked this particular, so it seems he had downloaded it. So my assistant wrote to Shan and he said, look, you asked us to take it off, but you know very well who this man is behind this. Ask him to take it off.
Okay, thank you. I was going to move to the way forward at this point, but I feel as you've mentioned it, maybe a pertinent moment to ask you about the WF dossier. Do you have any further response to this at this point?
So I would say that if the WF want to play fair, be honest, represent the people, and be transparent in front of people, and be God-fearing as we all ought to, and be very genuine and humble and truthful, then instead of representing what they think are my views, they should get my articles translated, my lectures, the transcript of my lectures that they've prepared, translated into Persian, Arabic. We will verify it, and then they can give it to the scholars of the East. So instead of sending a dossier which are their interpretations of my views, just give my views straight as they are.
Yes, okay, thank you for that. And I suppose in that light, the way forward, with that clarification in mind, what would you suggest is the way forward from
Now, I want to end this chapter with this particular interview. I'm no longer going to engage with this matter because it's consuming a lot of time. I do not find it's productive, and the sort of comments that are made are hurtful. They leave a bitter taste, and you're left with making a lot of excuses for the other side that maybe they didn't understand, maybe they didn't mean to say this. I would much rather spare myself and spare my dear Shaykh Alidina and Shaykh Muhammad Ismail and my son Shan all of this heartache and being caught up in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The other thing is that Shaykh Alidina, if he does find anything that I say weak, please write it down, send it to us, or come. We have the Shia Scholars Forum, the SIMS, and Fiqh workshop where the Mujtahideen, doctors, Mujtahid / academician, Muftis, they all attend. Come, present it here. This is the place where we do these debates, we learn from each other. You have something to offer, we will learn from you. We have something to offer, maybe there might be something that you might find appealing. So I do not wish to engage in this any further. In terms of the SSF, the SIMS, the programs that we have here, we have always invited the World Federation, ulama and scholars. It's unfortunate that they have never attended and they've never come, but I do hope that Shaykh Alidina is a very humble and a reasonable man. He's God-fearing, and he will see that there's an opportunity to do great good, and I know for a fact that he will make an attempt to come. And Shaykh Alidina and Shaykh Muhammad Ismail both told me in that recording of Skype that we will come eventually. So I have full confidence that they will both come, inshallah.
Okay. Do you welcome the IEB taking your work to Qom, or Najaf for that matter, for further clarification?
I absolutely welcome it. I want my ideas to reach out to Qom and Najaf in their own language. And if they can do that, then nobody is happier than me.
And finally, how do you plan to continue your work yourself going forward?
So here, the work that I'm engaged with currently is very pressing work that needs responses. These are the issues that we face in the contemporary world. The mainstream have not done work on this to the extent required. And I firmly believe that Islam, the Prophet, the Ahlul Bayt, the Quran, have sufficiently given us learnings through which we can think and arrive at acceptable solutions which are beneficial for the global Muslim and humanity at large. So for example, issues such as climate change, ecology, issues such as pollution, and our responsibility at a jurisprudential level, at a fiqh level. Issues such as biomedical ethics, organ donation, the meaning of euthanasia, palliative care, issues such as human rights, rights of animals, state and religion. These are pressing issues that we need to discuss. So I am involved in conducting research either on my own or with group of experts, and this is what I will be doing. Of course, the mainstream are not really contributing on this in a very meaningful way, but whatever little they do contribute, we would like to have that and benefit from their thoughts and also involve them in our processes here. And on a final note, the doors of Al-Mahdi are open. The doors of my heart are open for them. The World Federation should not feel, I'm going to be very candid, the World Federation should not feel threatened by Al-Mahdi. They should take pride. Introspection into religion, evaluation of religion should not be frowned upon. Religion has to be relevant in every era. They should not be afraid that they will lose the youth to somebody who's bringing about modernist idea. They should be afraid that the youth will turn away from Islam altogether.
Shaykh Arif, I want to thank you for taking the time today to answer some of these questions. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.